So last but not least, we have this fantastic panel here that is going to be discussing how we can catalyze women in youth through clean cooking. So how that can create empowerment for development, for other goals beyond clean cooking. And I have the pleasure to pass the word to my friend and colleague Sheila Operocha, Director of Energia, to lead this panel. Please, Sheila, this is your...
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Simida. And this morning we had a wonderful session and we were talking about grandfathers and godfathers. And Professor Simida is a godmother, particularly when it comes to ethanol. I remember when we first met many, many years ago, that ethanol, when we discussed ethanols in the energy sector, was mainly for transportation. And you have been very critical in moving that discussion to think of ethanol for cooking energy. So it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the organizers for having this session. Ladies and gentlemen, the case has been made. Nobody here is going to dispute that lack of access to clean cooking disproportionately has an impact on women and girls. In fact, the World Bank, in their policy brief that was launched at the SDG Summit, mentioned some really shocking and staggering statistics, that the annual loss, there was an annual loss of $0.8 trillion due to the lack of productivity of women because of the impact of clean cooking. And we've heard said many times, including today by the Special Representative of the Secretary General, that this is unacceptable in this century. And why is it unacceptable? It's unacceptable also because the evidence shows that actually when you do include women and you also include youth, in a lot of countries, certainly in the continent that I come from, you cannot talk about making strides, any transition, any movement, if you don't include youth, which are the majority of human beings on this planet, and particularly in developing countries. But yeah, what is really disheartening is that the empirical evidence shows how both women and youth, one, as consumers, their agency as consumer really is pivotal to the widespread of acceptance, utilization, and adoption of clean cooking solutions. That in the difficult markets, what we call the last mile markets, that it's really the distribution channels that are availed to women and youth that drive clean cooking access. And this is where conventional business distribution channels are not acceptable. We also find in many cases, not just in the clean cooking sector, but in across the board, that in the economy is that when you do engage women and youth, you have so many returns on investment, not just on social returns, but their leadership in these areas really drives meaningful progress at scale. So it's in this context that we have this, that we're going to have this session. And I think what's really interesting is that here we're talking about catalyzing women and youth empowerment through clean cooking. So we're not only looking at the gender dividend or gender equality when we're talking about time saving, when we're talking about giving access to clean cooking on the demand side, which is very, very important. But we're looking at how is this going to really empower women and youth? How does it meet the aspirations of women and youth? I've said this many times that when I go to gender conferences, whether it's at the Commission for the Status of Women, or whether it is at Women Deliver, where we had 6,000 women, the biggest convening of feminists, I do not talk about clean cooking. Whenever I open my mouth about and mention the word clean cooking, they chase me from the room. They don't want to hear about women cooking on stoves, particularly not on clay stoves. They want to hear how this is giving them businesses. How are you striving women's employment? How are you advancing women's education? Really meeting women's aspiration of the 21st century. So it's in this regard that I've been joined by an excellent panel of speakers who are positioned, their organizations, representing organizations that are positioned in different parts of the clean cooking ecosystem. But one thing that is common amongst all of them is that they're intentional in their vision, in their drives, in their investments, in their strategies, to have programs that effectively empower women and youth. This is not something that happens on its own. It's something that's intentional, that has to be planned, and are delivering at scale. So I'm pleased to hear from them. And just in the interest of time, I don't know, Professor Simida, if we're still finishing at 15:30, because we did ask, at least I would allow you to ask my panelists to have 5-minute interventions if we can. And I now ask for the indulgence of all our audience to allow us to have this very important discussion, even if it's at the end of the day. So I'm going to start the discussion with Madam Stella Funzanzi from Gama, the Deputy Director of Forestry and Climate Change Negotiator from the Ministry of Forestry of Malawi. Madam Stella, I would like to initiate this discussion because I think it's really important to get government perspective. We heard early in the morning that clean cooking, and I've always said, unfortunately, clean cooking has been driven very much about non-state actors. This needs to be a priority for governments. It's a public sector issue. And in doing so, we know how your government really stepped up and played a pivotal role at the high-level dialogue on energy in 2021, where you're one of the champion governments on clean cooking, together with Kenya and Malawi. And in that, your government also launched your energy compact. A major component of your energy compact was on clean cooking. So showing leadership at the international level, but also within, also at the regional level within our continent. Could you please share with us the actions taken by the government of Malawi to prioritize women and youth empowerment in your clean cooking compact, but just across the strategies and policies in the country? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Stella Gama, and I am the Director of Forestry in the Ministry of Natural Resources and Climate Change, Malawi. But as she highlighted, I also support the work of the Least Developed Countries Group at Climate Change as a lead negotiator for gender and technology. And our work is also supported by UNIDO at the UNFCCC with financing from the GEF to enhance the capacity of least developed countries to have a voice within the climate change negotiations, including the voice of women. Yeah, so what has Malawi done? As you said, Malawi is one of the countries, as a least developed country, which is also interested in enhancing or ensuring that there is energy security for its citizens, for its masses. One of the characteristics or the statistics that I can give is that over 95% of Malawians use biomass energy for their day-to-day domestic energy needs, but also in other industries like livestock management, restaurants, and other industries which require wood, for example, toilet paper making. And these are the industries that are using the archaic technologies, if I may say. So the 95% of the Malawians, as I said, relying on biomass, it means they are exerting pressure on forest resources. So the forests are degrading. We are losing over 15,000 hectares per year. So it means by 2030, instead of restoring the forests, we are losing forests instead of restoring them. So what is the government doing to ensure that we have energy security? With this population, which requires biomass energy, the government has created an enabling environment, and that is the role of government, to create an enabling environment to ensure that there is energy security for all. In terms of the biomass, since we still have to meet the energy needs in terms of charcoal and firewood, government has developed a charcoal strategy. So the charcoal strategy has a number of pillars, looking at the development of the biomass energy sector itself, but also looking at the alternative energy sources, and also provision of clean and efficient cooking technologies, so that if you're going to use gas, it has to be clean and efficient. If you're going to use electricity, it has to be efficient. If you're still going to use charcoal or firewood, it has to be efficient, and it also has to be clean. So the role of the clean cookstoves is one key factor in the energy mix for Malawi. Her Excellency, the former president of Malawi, launched a 2 million cookstove drive for Malawi maybe 5-6 years ago. And in addition to that, the target has now been increased. So we have high-level political support for the clean cooking. We also have other policies and strategies under the gender and also under the forestry department itself. Under the gender, we want women to participate effectively in provision of their energy needs. Women need to access, they need to access the biomass energy. If they're going to collect firewood, they should collect it within the vicinity. They need to access the clean cookstoves, because the women are the ones who are cooking in the homes, and also need to access the alternative sources to energy. If you're going to talk about electricity, whether it's hydroelectricity, the gas, liquefied petroleum gas, women need to access this. So the gender policy makes sure that women, they have the enabling environment to access energy.
Thank you very much, Stella, for the intervention. And I was very pleased to hear right at the beginning of when you started speaking that you made the link between productive uses and clean cooking. I think too often when we talk about women's role in clean cooking, it's at the household level. However, like you rightly said, productive uses, a lot of women's productive uses depends on thermal energy, depends on heat energy. So really a clean cooking intervention needs to look both not only at the household, but also needs to look at the productive ends. And this is why we have found, research that Energia found, is that really our productive uses interventions that focus solely on electricity tend not to benefit women, because women's businesses are also very focused on thermal energy. So thank you for those comments. I'd now like to turn to the next, Heather Adria Rohani, the head of Air Quality and Health Unit at the World Health Organization's headquarters. I don't know if they, okay. Anyway, Heather, you've been, there you are, lovely picture, yes. So Heather, I spoke about it earlier on, and it was mentioned also, I think, in the first session. But in September at the SDG Summit, there was a milestone. One of the milestone achievements that I feel came out of that was the launch of the Global Roadmap for a Just and Inclusive Clean Cooking Energy. The WHO, in collaboration with UNDESA and the World Bank, under the auspices of UN Energy, has launched. This was very well received, and not least because of some of the new evidence that you're bringing, and new strategies that you're bringing, much more closer link to, for instance, what's happening in the global north. We do also have to, from a climate perspective, have to switch our clean cooking in the global north to much more sustainable sources, but also very much looking at the cost of inaction, the cost of not meeting 7.2 target on universal access. It was 2.4 trillion that you said, and like I said earlier on, 1/3 of this cost was linked to gender impacts. So Heather, could you share with us some of the recommended priority actions that were outlined in the roadmap to address this challenge? Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila, and thank you for having me, and I look forward to the further discussions. Indeed, so WHO, in partnership with the World Bank at the SDG Summit, launched a global roadmap for a just inclusive net zero clean cooking transition. So this roadmap actually lays out targets up to 2050 to ensure that all the world, both high, low, and middle income countries, have all achieved clean cooking by 2030 and net zero, particularly for high income countries by 2050, excuse me. So some of the priorities specifically in there is really, we don't want the just and inclusive aspect, right? We want to make sure that everyone is getting clean cooking. And so one of the first priorities is actually to make sure by 2030 that we eliminate the most extreme cooking poverty out there, that we make sure all households have access to efficient cooking that's not subjecting themselves to health issues, as well as climate damage and environmental degradation. So really prioritizing that we are not leaving those in the most have the highest level of energy poverty behind. So this was one of the key things to make sure that it's just. The next thing that we really wanted to make sure is, as we're all planning to achieve our 2050 net zero targets, a lot of people are looking, and the governments are looking at their actual energy planning. People often think, oh, we're going to fix energy poverty by putting electricity everywhere. But we can't. But they don't consider the clean cooking aspect of that. So they are doing their plans to electrify, but they're not considering the needs of cooking in their electricity plans and the sustainable and zero emission cooking. So we need to make sure that cooking is really considered in these government integrated plans, and the electricity for cooking is included there. Cooking is a heavy power-intensive activity for households in particular. So, but there is the opportunity for putting the infrastructure out, which was mentioned at the opening session. Let's do it properly. Let's not go back and fix things in 20 years. Let's go ahead and make sure that we have electricity in there and it's integrated well into the plans to make sure clean cooking's up there. A third item on the list was actually increasing public and private commitment and finance. We, as mentioned earlier in the previous session, cooking really accelerating cooking for 2.3 billion people really is going to require a lot of investment. And it's amazing. We have cell phones are everywhere. We have cars and things. Why is it that we can't invest in the cooking to help protect women and the youth that are living in these households? So let's really make sure that we as governments are working together with the private sector to really scale up the investments necessary. When we're doing so, though, that's when the affordability issues come into play. This has been a huge barrier, and when I go into countries and speak with governments and I speak with people in communities, it's always the affordability that comes up. Clean cooking is too expensive. So we need to be really looking at these mechanisms, like mentioned earlier in the previous session. Pay-as-you-go is perhaps an opportunity to do it, and also subsidies are needed for those really those households that really just don't have the capital put forward. We need to be making sure that we're providing them the assistance they need and making sure that it is affordable. And not affordable for the one-off cost, it's affordable for the long term, because they may be able to put the initial investment up first, or they may have got their stove, but this cooking is something we do every day and needs to be sustained over a long period of time. And then the final thing is that we really need to make sure that, as we are looking, we have the privatized commitments and we have commitments, but we need to really have clean cooking needs to be connected to climate more centrally. I feel that a lot of people don't see the connection. Air pollution is my unit's work, and often we talk to people and they're like, we want to work on climate change, but we don't want to work on air pollution, which is shocking to me because they're very, very similar. Clean cooking is the major source of air pollution. Household air pollution is estimated to cost 25 to 50% of black carbon emissions are coming from inefficient residential use of biomass. So we have a huge opportunity to really address the climate, and we need to make sure that climate is the same as clean cooking. So when people are working on clean cooking, they're working on climate. And so these are some of the key recommendations in this. And as Sheila had alluded to, we want to make sure that we're all making our contributions to protecting the climate and protecting the health of the people. So this is why we're pushing within this net zero, just and inclusive energy transition plan for cooking, that high-income countries also need to be transitioning to more sustainable, renewable sources of energy for their cooking as well, so that everybody's accountable. It's a collective problem requiring collective action.
Thank you very much, Heather. So I'll now move to Andrea Stancic, the coordinator of global networks and partnerships in the Clean Cooking Alliance. Andrea, I think nobody is going to argue with me when I say that the Clean Cooking Alliance has been in the forefront of bringing clean cooking to the global sustainable development agenda. I was in the room when the Clean Cooking Alliance was really pushing to have 7.2. When we started discussions on SDG 7, it was only on electricity. There was only a target on electricity and not on clean cooking. And the Global Alliance played a key role in doing that. And you've done that by really looking at partnerships and work. Partnerships has been central to the way that, to your approach. You have a global network of partners where you go from mobilizing investments to innovations to political will. So please, can you share with us lessons that you have and your experience from the strides, and I think there have been significant strides that you have made to mainstream youth and gender equality into your work, and particularly focusing on the leadership of women and young people in the clean cooking community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shayla. Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure and honor to be here. I'm really glad that we are speaking today about gender and youth, because really without young people and women taking the lead and being at the forefront of clean cooking action, I think we are missing the whole point, and all our efforts remain quite limited when it comes to making a real life impact on those who are most affected. And definitely young people and women are among those who are most affected by the lack of committed action on clean cooking. As much as 90% of all youth live in developing countries, where 2.3 billion people still lack access to basic clean cooking technologies, which is an unacceptable number if we want to see progress across many different sustainable development goals, as we heard today. We know that the lack of access to clean cooking is damaging health, causing both deaths and diseases due to indoor air pollution, and due to their traditional roles that are often strongly linked to cooking, women are affected to a larger degree. We know that there is 3.2 million deaths each year from household air pollution, and 60% of these deaths are among women and children. Also, young people are often those who bear this burden of helping their families sustain this type of cooking, going to remote destinations to collect firewood, which is often not only time-consuming, but it can also be dangerous in the context of conflicts, displacement, and other unsafe conditions. So yeah, as you said in the beginning, I think it is first important to recognize that when we are talking about young people and women in clean cooking, we are talking about vulnerable population that is disproportionately affected by the lack of access to clean cooking. But at the same time, this puts them in a unique position to lead by their unique experience, knowledge, and genuine concern for this issue to drive forward innovation, entrepreneurship, and advocacy in their home communities to increase access. And these critical roles of young people and women in clean cooking need to be recognized and supported by the whole clean cooking sector if we want to ensure that solutions that we are developing are meeting the needs of those who are most affected, and if we want to ensure that there is a proper and widespread adoption of these solutions, we need to ensure that young people and women are in leadership positions, from designing stoves, manufacturing, distribution, sales, marketing, advocacy, and entrepreneurship. We need to have young people and women equally represented. But it is the responsibility of all stakeholders in clean cooking to create enabling and inclusive environment for young people and women to take these roles that naturally belong to them. So yeah, when it comes to empowering women, CCA is committed to advancing professional development of women entrepreneurs and employees in clean cooking, also supporting businesses through providing gender advisory support, and also strengthening the evidence on how clean cooking improves the lives of women. When it comes to youth engagement, CCA works across 3 pillars. Firstly, raising awareness and understanding of young people when it comes to different challenges, solutions, and opportunities in clean cooking. Also empowering young people, building their capacity, knowledge, and skills to act, and finally, facilitating this youth-led action on clean cooking through elevating youth voices and increasing their participation in important dialogues and processes. So yeah, as we know, 75% of all unpaid work is done by women. Also, we have 70 million unemployed young people worldwide. And I think clean cooking can be a wonderful opportunity to address this gap while at the same time achieving progress across many different sustainable development goals. So yeah, I'm glad that today we are discussing the critical roles of women and young people in clean cooking, and hoping that working together we can ensure that as those who are most affected, young people and women, should be at the forefront of clean cooking action, equally contributing and benefiting from the solutions.
Thank you very much, Andrea. So as we're talking about the clean cooking transition, let this be a transition that really brings real jobs to women and the youth. I'll now move to Sylvain Vonu. I hope I've said your name correctly, and my apologies if I haven't. But you're the project manager of SMV in Cambodia. And in the earlier session, we heard about investments and about financing. And SMV is one of the old kids on the block. SMV is known in the clean cooking sector in many countries. You have a multi-country track record. But you're also known for the innovative financial instruments, concrete instruments that you have used in countries and also in local communities. And one of this is the results-based financing. And we have been working together a lot to see how we can use this as an instrument, not just to promote companies and businesses, but really to use it as an instrument for bringing in gender and youth. So could you share with us some actions that your organization is taking to integrate gender and youth empowerment into your RBF strategy in Cambodia? And do you have any concrete examples of early wins that you've already made? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Stella. You correctly called my name. Yes. Well, as we already know that innovative financing is critically important to overcome market barriers in business in almost every sector, including energy, especially with regard to clean cooking. So SNV has used the result-based financing approach, which we simply call it as RBF, like to support private sector to address the market barrier and also to scale up the business in order to deliver modern cooking technology and services to the last mile community in the country. So to promote women economic empowerment in remote Cambodia through RBF, we also need to be innovative. So we understand our target area situation and also target company that we are going to work with. So SNV has put 3 important efforts to that. First one, we motivate local enterprise, local shop, and actors who are mainly women led in business to actively participate our program and project by providing them with clear and easily understood information and also the simple procedure to apply for the funding for RBF. Yep. And the second one is that SNV, we also put in place the feasible small threshold, which we allow small sale and small RBF claim. So this attract small local shop to apply and benefit from the project. And the third one, we also provide extensive support to women-led businesses, especially for those who are interested in applying for the result-based financing. So we supported them in all stages of our funding procedure, from the application stage through screening and interview. And we also provide them support with the business development support to improve their business operation and also to improve the business record keeping. So as the result of our effort, there are 37 small and medium enterprise, where 21 of them are female-led businesses are supported under the OBF mechanism, which is exceeding our plan. So we plan only around 20 in total, and less than 50% for women-led, but actually we have more of them to join our program. So in the first quarter of our OBF implementation, more than 1,000 stoves were sold by our supported enterprise, and where around 70% of those cook stoves were sold to women buyers. So we can say that through the OBF mechanism, our supported enterprise are able to receive flexible payment from their customer, and also able to undertake more innovative sales strategy that they have never used before, and also improve their after-sales service. So all of this lead to improve access to clean cooking in the community. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sildang. And I really like the way that you have demystified and deconstructed results-based financing, that it doesn't have to be rocket science, but you can get real results, tangible results, with simple tools, such as making sure that the tools and the information you provide are packaged and are appropriate for local women businesses and local entrepreneurs. So I'll move on now to Marianne Opoto, the project coordinator for the Energizing Development program in Bolivia at GIZ. Mariana, just like SMV, the Energizing, where would clean cooking be without Energizing Development program, and also without GIZ? Again, really bringing real resources and a real intervention into the country and into the local level. Last year, I'm very proud to say that NDEV, because we consider at Energy, we consider NDEV one of our partners, but last year you launched your gender strategy and operational guidelines that's to be implemented across all NDEV partners. And like I said, it's a very substantive program within the energy access and clean cooking. So having a gender strategy was really critical. And very good to see that you linked this gender strategy to your monitoring and your accountability frameworks as well. I know that Sarah Thomas is in the room who led some of this incredible work. So I'm very interested to hear from you how GIZ has translated this strategy to amplify the gender and youth impacts in your clean cooking program in Bolivia.
Thank you, Sheila, and I'm so glad to be part of this wonderful panel and talk about women, because the whole morning we've been talking about finance and funding and business, and now we have to talk about women, because clean cooking is about women. And we can have all the money that we need for all the gap that we've been talking about, and we can have the most expensive and better and more efficient stoves, but if the women are not convinced, if they are not satisfied with the technology, they are not going to use the stove. So there's a lot of work to do in the ground before thinking about the technologies and the funding and things like that. Yeah, and in NDEF, we talk about energy change, and when we talk about change, we have to be very strategic. So we have this gender strategy that helps us so much in our work. That means that gender focus, that is mainly focused in women, has to be considered in the project from the beginning, from the design, implementation, for the monitoring and the evaluation process. So it's a constant loop of learning and adjusting when you work with clean cooking in stoves project. In Bolivia, 80% of the population cooks with biomass still, and we had the chance to help to support or facilitate the access of 100,000 families for cook stoves. If we think about 50% of these households using the stoves, you can imagine the impact for these households, not only for women, but for the families. So I've been asked to give specific examples of how we work with women, and I was thinking about 4. I will say have women, involve women working for women. In Bolivia, we have 3 very different regions, very different from the cultural point, very different from a different language, different cooking habits, and the best results that we got, they were. It was when we could involve women from these regions in our project. So they know how to talk with other women. They know how to talk with men. Usually men are the authorities. They know how to convince. They know the words for the messages. So it's very important to have women working for women. The second one will be to think about women needs, but go to the basics. For example, if you wanna organize a workshop, a meeting where you wanna talk about improved stoves, and you wanna sell stoves, usually women come with children, and they are so busy with children, and that's the real life. So we, as a project, we try to organize childcare for the women, for the children, while the women had the opportunity to hear about the information, to be concentrated with the information that we were giving, and it was a very good result. It's a very simple solution, because we are thinking about solutions, and it doesn't has to be costly. I mean, of course, it would be great if the project can pay for this service, but you can organize this with alliances with the women organizations, for example, a daughter, a girl, somebody from the community taking care of the children, and then your workshop is going to be better. The third one is to involve women in the innovation and design of the technologies. We did it with clean stoves, but also with productive uses, and it worked very well. It's amazing how much energy the women can put in the design. I'm not talking about the technological part or technological design, but I'm talking about all the information. Ask them which materials are better, how, when, where, and they are going to give you all that information. And the last one, as you mentioned at the beginning, I think it's important to support women engagement in the value energy chain as business owners, as entrepreneurs, giving them the skills for to manage their own businesses, developing capacity for them, business management, marketing, so they can not only access to a technology, but they can also generate income with the technology. And those are simple examples that we use in Bolivia, and I think the whole ENDEV program has this kind of activities or objectives in order to work with the communities and women in clean stove projects.
Thank you very much for your intervention. And in fact, in the feminist world, we are slowly moving away from from the word empowerment, because we say we're not really there to empower, but actually women already have their own agency and their own power, like you very well articulated. And it's a question of building on that knowledge and building on that power to strengthen our own, to strengthen interventions that benefit them. So thank you so much for your intervention. So now our last speaker is Akil Colander, who's the SDG 7 Youth Specialist at Sustainable Energy for All. Akil, well, I've come from many different areas, but in Zambia we talk about having a sheep with 5 legs. And when you joined SE4, I really think that Damiolov did find a sheep with 5 legs. One, you're young, you're handsome, you're also a person of color, and you are a feminist. And I say this because of the conversations that we have. And we do know that SE4All has many different programs. In fact, it's really grown, and we heard quite a few of them also in the clean cooking space. And all your programs have really advocated for inclusive approach to advancing SDG 7. But for me, one of your flagship programs, it might not be as big as the others, is your Women and Youth at the Forefront program. And because this one tries to promote equal opportunities in what you call economic participation and career advancement within the clean cooking sector, within different sectors, but also in the clean cooking sector. So could you share with us experiences and lessons from this, what I think is a very impressive program? Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. And first of all, thank you for having me here. Yeah, absolutely. So SE4All does quite a bit of work in the clean cooking space specifically. We do have a separate clean cooking program, but I sit within Women and Youth at the Forefront, and what we've realized, even though we do have projects, programs, and initiatives that focus on clean cooking specifically within our program that are almost in a sense separate to the work that our clean cooking program does, we realized that we might have been going about this the wrong way. There might be a more effective way, seeing that at the end of the day, the marginalized communities or the persons most affected by a lack of clean cooking solutions are women and youth, you know? And so why are these people-focused programs separate? So what we've done in our new strategic business plan that was recently launched in New York and will cover the years 2024 to 2026 is merge clean cooking, women and youth. And so we have these 3 programs that will be working together for the next 3 years and beyond. We are going to mainstream the work that these programs do across the entire organization, because we believe that clean cooking needs to be central to everything that we do, in addition to, of course, women and youth. So truly having it as a cross-cutting, people-centered program. And this is still quite a new effort, but we've already started work. So for example, one of our previous panelists spoke about the need for the country-level engagement to create that enabling environment for clean cooking solutions and for to truly improve lives and livelihoods by closing the momentous clean cooking gaps that we have at the moment. And so we've been working, for example, through our energy transition plans, which show roadmaps for governments to take the least cost pathway to their clean energy transitions based on their climate targets, through our integrated energy access planning, and through many of our other programs to try to leverage and to drive the importance of clean cooking through these mechanisms, and in a way influence policy to include clean cooking at the planning stage and at the highest level, with the hopes that once we can create that enabling environment, all the other things can follow. So that's one way that we do it, through the top-down approach of trying to influence policy. And then you asked about women and youth at the forefront, and it's the programs that we do that influence or try to close clean cooking gaps through strategic methods. So one way is the Women in Clean Cooking mentorship program that we have in partnership with CCA and with GWNet, that every year trains a cohort or provides mentorship to a cohort of young women, and provides them with the opportunity to learn from seasoned professionals, to enhance their professional and personal development, and to get 9 months of experience with leaders, female leaders in I think both female and male actually, in the clean cooking and energy space, because there is this lack of retention of women in STEM careers, and a big reason for that is, while we do have some amazing female leaders and role models in the energy sector, we don't have as much as we should, you know. And so by pairing them up and showing them, exposing them to these incredible female leaders, we hope that we can now, you know, create a pathway that these young women can follow in the work that they do. And to date, I think we have around 90 young women who have gone through these programs in the last 2 years and are now still working in the sector. And then another way that we target young women who are involved in clean cooking is through our Open Africa Power Program. So every year, in partnership with NL Foundation, we provide 10 months of holistic and comprehensive energy sector experience on the technical, regulatory, financing, and development side to between 100 and 150 young people from across the continent of Africa, in partnership with universities in Africa and in Italy. And to date, we have had, since SE for All has partnered with NL to do this, around 280 graduates, 51% of which are women, sorry, and many of which are involved in the clean cooking sector. And for these women, we provide tailored job shadowing and mentorship opportunities to once again close these gaps. And one of the things that this kind of centers around is, you know, there's a lot of different work happening in the clean cooking space, but in many cases it's happening in silos, and there's this need for that ecosystem that we can create to bring together the resources that we all have for this very much shared goal and this giant gap that we can't possibly fill on our own, and create this linear pathway that women and youth who are interested in contributing to this clean cooking sector. And I just to segue a bit, I had the opportunity to travel to Rome a couple of weeks ago and act as a panel for a youth solutions competition put on by the UNDP. And I think there were 12 energy projects were awarded with $20,000 in funding, and many of them were clean cooking projects, you know, and it shows that, you know, when we empower, and to use the word, but not to use the word, but when we empower youth and women who have already taken the work and, you know, in many cases dealing with the least amount of resources that you can have, but still developing innovative solutions that can move the needle. And we provide them with the financing, and not just stop there, but provide them with the guidance, with the mentorship, with the capacity building and the business acumen that they need to develop their solutions. We can have much, much, much more effective progress in moving the needle on clean cooking. And as the fellow panelists also said, women employ and empower women, and it's the same in the youth space. Youth employ youth, you know, and so if we can actually develop solutions in this kind of linear pattern where youth and women have access to this entire ecosystem of support, you know, we can actually just by osmosis and organic development see a much bigger growth in the sector. So those are a few of the ways that SE for All gets involved through the Women and Youth at the Forefront program, and then looking forward how we plan to move the needle in a more holistic way.
Thank you so much for that. And so now I'm looking at Simida, and I see that we are over 30 minutes from when we're supposed to close, and just 3 minutes before 4, so I'm sure you want me to close now. So I haven't heard anybody clap for the wonderful speakers, so I'd like to invite you to join me in thanking our speakers for their very valuable contribution. And here we have been talking about advancing, galvanizing women and youth's power within the clean cooking sector. Thank you. And I hand over to Simida. And thank you to all my speakers. Thank you.